I missed last night's dinner and therefore Peter Shergold's speech, but I did read the text and it seemed to me to be a terrific historic framework for what we've been discussing yesterday and will discuss today in this very important agenda. Today is a tiny little bit less intense, but still plenty of meat. Good to see you back here. Just one more reminder again today to put your phones on silent if you really must stay connected. And I'm going to introduce, just to recap on yesterday and perhaps look ahead to where we want to go today, I'm going to ask Robin Shreeve, Chief Executive of the Australian Workforce and Productivity Agency, and Karen Taylor, Chief Executive of Government Skills, to give you a brief introductory message. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kerry. Colleagues, well, I hope you had an interesting and challenging day yesterday, and as Kerry said, my job is to give you a bit of an aide-memoire. To an extent, Peter Shergold, in his very witty, but despite the self-deprecation, scholarly and highly thoughtful speech after dinner last night, summed up one of the central themes to emerge from yesterday's conference. Is the future of work utopia or dystopia? Will it mean a utopian elimination of routine and repetitive work as machines take care of the boring bits? Or will it mean dystopia, with advances in information technology bringing with it a new form of digital Taylorism, with the disaggregation of professional work skills? I could not help noticing how Phil Riven told us that we had never had so much leisure time, but few on the Q&A panel seemed to appear to believe him. But one of the essential variances in interpretations over the day was between Phil Riven, who argued that working as an independent contractor was freedom from the slavery of employment, as opposed to my board member and ACTU president, Jed Kearney, who was alarmed at the impact of precarious employment on both the lives of individual Australians and our overall labour productivity nationally. I cannot help thinking your view may be influenced by whether you are a contracting neurosurgeon or a contracting cleaner. Two other members of the agency board, Keith Spence and Dr. Michael Keating, explained how our four scenarios will be used, not as forecasts, but as alternative views against we can stress test our policy recommendations in the new national strategy, which will be released at the end of the year. I was a bit worried about how two of our other board members, John Edwards and Heather Ridout, might react to Mark Burris's interesting but individualistic take on the state of the Australian economy, in particular Reserve Bank policy. Both John and Heather are on the Reserve Bank board, but discretion will mean that we will never know what they thought about Mark's opinions. Three other board members, Professor Gerald Burke, Peter Anderson and Mari Persson, have all been great supporters of our work on skills utilisation. Professor Chris Warhurst has been a consultant on this project. He introduced two very different case studies from the financial services firm Pottinger and the animal charity, the RSPCA. Maybe it's because I'm an animal lover that I find the RSPCA case study so appealing. How this charity, whose donors want all the money spent on animals, redesigned their organisation and some of the jobs, which meant with training they reduced their work cover bill by over $600,000 so they can indeed spend more money on the animals through better work utilisation. With a chair from the IT industry, it is hardly surprising that IT was a theme. Ziggy Switkowski was one of a number of speakers who highlighted the threat, or is it the opportunity, of MOOCs, the mass online open courseware, with Ivy League American universities making their courseware available free on the web. And finally, Darren Williams from freelancer.com probably won the prize for the most photographed slide of the day. Everybody got their iPad out. The one with the globe being covered in red and green trails, showing how much work was being sourced online, specified in the West but sourced in the East. Change is ubiquitous. Though I did not have the thrill of coming here today on rocket-powered roller skates, I did recently have a very personal reminder of how things have changed over the last 20 years. I'm currently reviewing some essays for the NCVR, one of which is on the establishment of an industry-led vet sector in the early 1990s. So I thought I should have a look the Devison report, which some of you might remember, on the training costs of award restructuring. And I was amazed to find it wasn't available on the web. So I had to do two things that I rarely do today. Physically borrow it from a library and read it in hard copy. And what a pain that you can't Control F the bits that you really want to see early on. So change is here, and we'll hear about more change today. So I'd like to hand over to my colleague Karen Taylor from Government Skills Australia to preview today's programme.
Thanks, Robin. Philip Bullock, board members of the agency, Skills Council's chairs and their respective board members from industry, fellow Skills Council chief executives and esteemed guests and delegates. Good morning to you all and a very warm welcome to day 2 of our conference. It's my privilege this morning to provide you with a couple of short opening remarks on behalf of all the industry skills councils and to look ahead at what today holds in store for us. John F. Kennedy famously once said that our progress as a nation can be no swifter than our progress in education. The human mind is our fundamental resource. I think it's safe to say that in Australia, most people already know that it's our intellectual capital that will set us apart. Now, more than ever, the aptitude of Australian business, our workforce, and the agility of our tertiary sector will dictate our future. However, this is a mindset that is also shared by Australia's competitors. China has already entered into a period of mass higher education. India plans to increase its proportion of young people going to university from 12% to 30% by 2025. That's only 13 years. Every third person in the world is currently connected to the internet. For any of us that have spent 20 minutes on the internet that we then realise has actually been 3 hours and we missed lunch, we know the power of knowledge and how addictive that knowledge is. We have the power to dream and to wonder and to get utterly lost in why, what if, and how. Just think how that's igniting the fire of innovation around the globe. Yesterday we glimpsed into our future. This morning we'll hear about its ramifications with an eye-opening presentation from Professor Hugh Laudner, co-author of the Global Auction. Following morning tea, we have 4 concurrent breakout sessions that feature companies already positioning themselves well into the future. You'll hear about their journeys, the hard decisions they've made, the pressures, and how some of Australia's most iconic companies are using the national training system as a key partner in their business strategy. Later this afternoon, we'll hear about the powerful role of informal learning and how it can unlock the latent potential in our workforce. And then we will finish off with 2 great sessions where you get to meet the future. Yesterday, it was said that when we first started planning for this conference, the recurring phrase we used was provocative. We wanted our speakers to make people question themselves and to question others. I think our speakers have more than risen to this challenge, and I am very much looking forward to today's program. Again, we'd like to encourage you to play an active role in the conference, to ask questions of our speakers, and to join us on Twitter during the robotics session. On behalf of the Industry Skills Councils and the agency, can I conclude by wishing you a great second day and express a very sincere thank you for your attendance here today.